Linda Bennett, your spiritual counselor and psychic host for Metaphysically Speaking. Take a look at the number at the bottom of the screen. It may take a second to pop up. We're having a little bit of difficulty. No worries. We have a master, professional, fabulous producer, and he's taking care of all the problems. So today we are going to be talking. So will you see the number down at the bottom? If you have a personal question, this is my rule. Call, but you have to ask a metaphysical question first. And then you can ask your personal question. That's okay? Okay. Personal question after the metaphysical question, then I will ask. Just give me your first name. You don't need to give me your last name or your birth information or anything like that. Just make sure I can hear your voice. Okay, we talked about the first eclipse in May. Now the second eclipse is June 10th, and that is in Gemini Sun and Gemini Moon. So therefore, it deals again with communication. The second half of the eclipses happen next November, this coming up, and December. And we'll deal with them at that time. But all you have to know is communication. If you need to examine your own communication, if you need to examine the way your friends communicate, everybody has a slightly different way of communicating. And also the vocabulary that some people use and others don't. If you can focus a little bit on how they phrase their words and maybe how they use words, what is the context? I don't speak in vernacular like hippie stuff, and I never said cool baby when they were doing cool, and I don't say, yeah. And I also can't snap my fingers. Isn't that weird? And I don't use whatever the expressions are now. So talking to me is just like talking to a normal person. Figure out how best to communicate with that individual. I mean, it's wonderful if you're a good communicator, but part of being a good communicator is knowing how the other person receives the information. This is so important. If you're speaking in a foreign language and the person doesn't understand you, it's going over their heads. It's helping nobody. So if you learn how they speak and how they hear, are you dealing with a visual person? Those are the people that have to look at you, even if you're buzzing around doing other things. They want to make eye contact with you. They get further information by watching your body language. If they're auditory, these are the people who can be doing something while you're trying to talk to them, and they're busy doing something, or they're writing something, or they're playing with something over here, and it's driving you crazy. They're auditory people. They get more out of the sound of your voice and the inflections. So don't be upset. It's really annoying if somebody is an auditory person, you're visual. I know this. So it's not that they're being rude. They hear better without the visual distractions. Think about that. So therefore, try to couch your communication in a way that they can receive it, because communication is all about one person saying something to another, or one person speaking to the masses. This is why you will notice that people who speak for a living, they travel all around, they give seminars, etc., which is why they move across the stage, which is why they used hand gestures, and also why they focus and why sometimes they look down, because they're trying to communicate with everyone in the audience. Kinesthetic people, we have a kinesthetic friend, and you'll approach her with anything, and she'll go, yank it right out of your hand. She's got to feel it. She gets more information by visualizing what she's looking at, hearing you talk, and it's like she gets a feeling from the paper. Drives me crazy. But I love her anyway. She's a wonderful person. But so visual, auditory, kinesthetic. They're not being rude. It's just like you're trying to talk to them about, say, this is a calendar. So she gets all kinds of vibes off that. And the best person to talk to is a psychic person, because it doesn't matter to us whether we're looking at you, hearing you, whatever. we get what you're saying and we get what you're feeling. And sometimes people are not very good at communicating their feelings, or they're trying to hide their feelings. But when you're psychic, it's hard to do that. So there's a difference between to them about their lives. So I'm not bothering to tune in when somebody and I are talking about the shopping list or where we're going tomorrow or what's happening. But when we're talking about something important, I'm all ears, eyes, nose, fingers, everything. So try to interpret yourself. Think, do you have to stare in somebody's eyes? Does somebody have to stare in your eyes? If they're staring in your eyes and you're looking away, it's important to them to be able to communicate eye to eye. But say, I'm more of an auditory person, if that's what you are. So if I don't look at you, I'm not being rude. I'm just hearing what you have to say. So this is also part of what the communication intensity of the eclipses mean. They happen on the new moon and the full moon. This year, it was the new moon. It was the full moon first and then the new moon. The new moon again is on the 10th of June. And it's the second part of the first set of eclipses this year. The second set does relate to this, but then something else as well. So we will be dealing with that later. But remember, on the 10th, between now and the 10th, you should be doing extra meditation. I suggested that to somebody today, and she said, you said that to me like 100 times, and some of my friends have said it. I think I'm going to try it. What do you have to lose? It's your soul. You have nothing to lose. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to fly away somewhere. You don't have to climb a mountain. Sit in your living room, sit in your office, sit in a comfortable chair, palms open in your lap, focus right here above the nose, between the eyebrows, your third eye, your pituitary gland. That's where I get pictures. And breathe deeply through the nose and exhale through the mouth slowly. And it's not a contest. It doesn't matter what the count is. It doesn't matter how long. You're not supposed to turn blue holding your breath. Just slow intake, pause, and exhale. And you can start off by saying Om. If you want to start off by saying Amen, it doesn't matter. The universe knows what you're talking about. The universe is present in everything and of everything and about everything and within you. So therefore, every effort is counted. Don't think you're crying in the desert somewhere and nobody hears you. It's impossible for the God force not to hear you because your soul is from the God force, still connected. You've heard the term silver cord. Well, think of a giant wad of chewing gum, as I've said before, and you take your little piece of self and you pop out just a little bit from the God blob and say, oh, what's that over there? And if you say, it doesn't matter, and you pop right back up again. If you say, what is that over there? And you have to go over here. Oh, wait, what's that over there? Is this related? And then you get further away. Oh, wait, look over here. Well, look at the top, the bottom of the painting would be the God force, the expanding, evolving, moving, feeling light force. And so now you're way over here instead of up back there. So answer the questions and get back slowly, because when you ask why or how or who, then you have to find out all of the story. And that makes it more complex and more time away from the God force, and makes you, if you're a curious being, makes you interested in going over here and going over there. And that's further and further and further and further. So what does that require? It requires you taking a life body and finding out. And that when you're in the life body, so many things happen and you have so many questions. And then you have to deal with the ramifications of getting the answers. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not so great. So this is what reincarnation is all about. The law of cause and effect. In your Bible, it says you reap what you sow. So what you do, you will get rewarded in kind. When it says an eye for an eye, it doesn't mean you kill the person. It means if they take your eye, you have the right to take theirs. I'm a yogi, and so it's the same as the Buddhist approach. Don't take their eye. Let it go. Let the karma be on that person who harmed you. You let it go. Am I going to tell you that it's easy working with one eye? No, it's not. But that's part of your karma to have to experience that. Perhaps in another lifetime, you're responsible for somebody losing part of their vision. So take it with grace. Forgive the other person, because you have no idea how important forgiveness is. It's one of those magical, amazing gifts you give yourself and you give others. So I don't do an eye for an eye. I don't sit there and plot and plan how I'm going to get even with someone. Let it go. Doesn't mean you're not feeling. It means you've made an evaluation. A harm has come to you purposely, or maybe not purposely. And you are consciously deciding you're not going to seek retribution. You are going to let the anger go. If you even got angry, you were probably fearful. And say to yourself, I have what I have. The event took place. I can't change it, but I can do the very best I can with medical science, and I will move my life forward. Many of us do that without even realizing it. It is a very yogic way of looking at things. It's also a very Buddhist way of looking at things. Also, they're talking about Pacific and Asian people. Many Pacific and Asian people who follow the Eastern religions and the island religions have the same philosophy. And then the ones that are a little more vengeful in spirit will yank out the other person's eye. What are they going to do with it? Just for punishment? That's kind of mean, isn't it? It's a way of communicating, but it's unnecessary. Why would you want to harm someone else? I'm not talking about a war situation. I'm talking about an everyday life situation. So therefore, communication isn't just about talking. It's about your body language. It's about, do you steal a parking space that somebody's trying to back into? What was that movie, Fried Green Tomatoes? If you haven't seen it yet, pull it up and watch it, I guess, on Netflix or Prime or one of those things. There is a scene in there where Kathy Bates was about to pull in, and these two smart mouth girls have a little teeny sports car, and they zip right in front of her. And they get out laughing and give her the finger, and so she doesn't think. She's been gaining herself back because she was married to a guy who wanted her to do everything his way. So she says, no, we're not going to let this go. Bang, she slams into their car. And boom, I think she hit it 3 times. And they would get all upset. And they come, what do you think you're doing? She said, I got better insurance and I'm older. And she takes off and she goes, leaving the two smarties all to themselves to be sneering and snide. We don't need to do that. It made her feel great. And I think everybody in the movie theater probably cheered. It's one of those moments that you had to be there. But think about that. You don't have to be there. You can just ride up and stop and say, want me to go? Want me to hit it? Then remember that next time you steal a parking space. That's what I would have done. Maybe run over the girls. No, I'm not. I'm just kidding. Okay. So my producer is hysterical. Look, I have a sense of humor. I'm sorry. I'm a Gemini.
Some things aren't funny.
That's my sense of humor. So therefore, communicate in a variety of different ways. Understand that your body language, that your dress, these people who walk around all black with the black makeup and black hair, well, they're communicating. I think if you're an NCIS fan, I love NCIS. I love the whole family of NCIS. And Polly Perrette, who used to be on there as the lab rat, was a goth person, but she was sweet and she was kind and she was loving. And people on the first initial impression that they got when they saw her was, oh, this is a nut job. But she wasn't. It was just the thing she liked. So when you're tuning into somebody's appearance, say to yourself, what does this really mean? What is this all about? That's communication. So make a list of things about yourself that you like, and alongside of it, make another list with things you don't like about yourself. And see what you can do about fixing the things you don't like. And if you have somebody you love and trust, show them the list and see what they have to say. They may check off a couple of things and say, yeah, but you're getting better at that, or no, you're not getting better at that, or that's not a problem. Why do you think that's a problem? And you can explain to them by communicating what you're talking about. And maybe they'll say, well, I never looked at it that way. Okay, if I'm looking at it that way, that is a problem. You have to have somebody you trust. Okay, so this is the set of eclipses. Doesn't mean you stop working on communication. It means this is a very powerful time for you to be working on the communication. So you've got what, 3 more days, 2 more days to work on your list. And if you say, well, I don't have time, what's more important than yourself besides your pussycats and puppy dogs? You. Because if you're not fixed, it's like being in an airplane. They tell you always, even if you have a baby, give yourself the oxygen first, because if you give it to the baby can't give it back to you. You'll pass out, the kid will die anyway. So therefore, give it to yourself, give it to the baby. Yourself, the baby. Yourself, the baby. You have to survive to be able to finish your karma and to be able to take care of the others around you. So, huge impact we've been having. I feel it's going to spread out till the 14th or 15th next week. It doesn't mean that astronomically it's going to, but it means with energy. It's a very powerful, one of the most powerful eclipses that we can have. Okay, remember, look at the number down at the bottom and look at that, and you can call in with your personal question, but first your metaphysical question. Now, we were starting to talk about time 2 weeks ago, and I've been trying to figure out how to explain it to you. You know how some people say, well, it doesn't matter whatever you do because everything's already happened anyway. We're living in the past, the present, and the future. That is so dumb. I can't even begin to imagine how dumb it is. Because we have free will. And there are others coming, there are others leaving, there are others staying around you, so that as life unfolds and everyone makes their own decisions, you respond to that, as well as what you are planning on doing. But think, we live on the average of 70 years. If I'm on another planet and the average lifespan is 5,000 years, we should say 5,000 of these years here on Earth. I've seen before you were born, I've seen while you're alive, I've seen afterwards what's happening. And so it's not that everything's happening at once. When you're on a different planet, you have a different perspective. Even the astronauts talk about this, and they lose bone density, and they lose weight, and they have trouble balancing themselves, and many of them have severe headaches afterwards. It's not normal that we live in that kind of pressurization. How do people from other galaxies show up? They've figured out pressurization. I was aboard a spaceship years ago. They figured out how everyone in the control room could still breathe. And some people were wearing breathing apparatus, and most were not. So on their planet, they have a different mixture. On most planets, it is oxygen, carbon dioxide. mixture of. That's what the babies being born of women from this planet are doing. I never had a problem with it. It wasn't that they were captured and corralled and raped, etc. It was artificial insemination. And it was so that after the apocalypse that we're going to be having, which has already started, when it's safe for humans to come back to this planet, it's going to be a different balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide. And these babies, or in some cases, young children now, have that ability to live on the planet after it is safe for habitation. And if you think you want to survive all the floods and the fires and the volcanoes and the earthquakes, you're not going to be able to go to the sink and pour out a glass of water because there won't be any sinks. There might be a couple places on Earth that are less ravaged and still have access to water and food, but not for long. Because food needs air and light. And just like we had years ago with Mount Pinatubo, and we had all those amazing, beautiful sunsets, the oxygen carbon dioxide was different. And a lot of people had respiratory problems and were going to the hospital. And remember in Iceland years ago, not too many years ago, maybe the last 10 years, where the volcano erupted, and there was no air traffic over Europe, no air traffic over parts of Africa, North Africa, Canada, etc., because of the immense ash cloud that lingered for weeks. You couldn't see, wouldn't want to be up on an airplane. So therefore, I'd think twice and I'd be making peace with myself and God. That doesn't mean run to church, because that means nothing. I personally do not like organized religion. I've said it a million times. I will continue to say it. It is a man's idea of what you should do. Whether it's the Jewish religion, whether it's the Catholic religion, whether it's the Protestants, whether it's the Muslim, it doesn't matter. It's all about what a Middle Eastern man wants. If you love Jesus, as do I, then be Jewish. Because he was. The whole family was Jewish. And remember, Moses was Egyptian, and the term Tutmosis is the term for priest or priestess. So he just kept the last word because he also was of royalty. Nobody found him in the reeds in the river. Have you ever seen a wildlife show on National Geographic or the Animal Channel with the crocodiles and the hippos and the poisonous snakes? Can you imagine any person of any kind of logic putting a baby there? The kid would be eaten in a second. One of those 25-foot crocodiles would swim right up and just be a snack. Or the cobra would bite first. Or the hippo would knock the basket up in the air. So that was a nice, cute little story, but it wasn't true. It was the Pharaoh and his sister who had sex, and that was her baby. But he grew up amazingly wise and was a priest in that temple. And still today, in many religions, a priest or priestess cannot harm another person. They can't lift their hands. They can call a guard and say so-and-so is out of line, but they cannot hit anyone. And Moses witnessed a guard either beating him to shreds or stabbing. I don't remember what the story was, but he watched the guard kill the person, and he turned around and killed the guard. That was a sin against the whole priestesshood. So he was forced to leave, and he had decided that he had friends who believed the way he did. And he went around and told them he was leaving. Did they want to join him? That's how Judaism started, because they were Egyptian. High Egyptian means great spiritual contact with people from other galaxies, etc. And so therefore, They got together, they left with their goodies on a caravan, and off they went. And their beliefs were very similar to Egyptian. Egyptian had 72 rules about living. Also, Moses was married to Zipporah, which you will find in your Old Testament, who was the daughter of Jethro in what is now Ethiopia. And Jethro was considered the king of the African nations, and they had 22 laws to live by, 22 being a magical number. So therefore, he didn't just fall out of the bushes or leap up from the Nile. He already had a set of rules that he was following. And that's where the 10 Commandments came from. He whittled it down because these were basically uneducated people who were following along. And he had to make it simple. 10 fingers, 10 toes, they could count on each one. So we are dealing with the concept of age and reincarnation and free will. Free will, I say, is the curse of humanity. I don't know why God started all this stuff. I have no idea why the God force considered it a great idea to put people on a planet and let them run loose and let them be stupid, let them make bad decisions. It beats me. I have no clue. Anybody who tells you they know is out of their mind. Don't listen, because nobody can figure that out. It makes no sense. Why would you want people running around making all kinds of mistakes, hitting each other as drunk drivers or drugged drivers, killing each other, shooting each other, beating each other, having garbage on television like wrestling and whatever they're calling it, MMA sports or whatever. This is violence, sheer complete violence. And therefore, why do we have it? Why are TV programs, many of which I do not watch because they're so violent? Why do we have those? Criminals have become more bold, more imaginative, all because of, I believe, television and radio and movies, rather. Think about it. I can remember as a little girl, the first Playtex commercial, which was, oh no, a bra? It was one of the models you see in the stores, and there was a sweater and a bra over the sweater. I know it seems insane. I was looking at it like, you wear your bra inside, you don't wear it outside. Little girl, I knew that. But that was, and then the Ban roll-on deodorant commercial. Oh my God, they had a Venus de Milo. Yes, I'm not kidding. A Venus de Milo with the arm up, and then the Ban bottle. Now, those are the good old days. Now anything goes, anything can be said, anything can be done. We know the internet is way out of control because the people who own it don't care if lies are being told. They just want the money. And that's got to be broken up as a monopoly. We need a government that cares about the people, not a government that cares about getting itself reelected. So this is all part of communication with these eclipses. It's all part of the communication with yourself, not only making out a list of what you like and what you don't like, but what you like about the government, what you like about the world, what you like about how things are run, what you like about the lies that are told that Trump didn't win, that Trump didn't lose, and these crazy people. Now they got rid of Liz Cheney, who was a good leader, and they put a Trumpy in there, or a Trumpette. Where is this country going? It's going to greed. It's going to the blackmail, because he's got blackmail files on people, because his mentor was Roy Cohen, and that was his deal. Gather up all the information, put it in a file, throw it out when you need it, throw it to the person, let him know what you got on him, and you'll own them. That was his methodology. Don't tell me he wasn't Trump's loyal supporter and mentor, because there's lots of pictures out there with Roy Cohn instructing him at a meeting or leaning over or handing him something. So therefore, a bad guy trained Trump, who has absolutely no morality, no decency whatsoever. And I don't care what party you are, I'm an independent. And so therefore, it's interesting getting all the calls from the Republicans, not from the Democrats, but from the Republicans. Don't I want to register as a Republican? If I wanted to register as a Republican, I would register as a Republican. I'm a big girl, I know how to register. So therefore, in communication, everything counts. And this even means your pets. And this means the squirrels outside. And it means the chipmunks and the possums and the raccoons and the deer and whatever else is out there, the turtles. I had 2 little frogs in my pond last year. Little teensy. I have an angel that has her hands like this. And she sits up there on the top of the pond, and the water washes over her hands. And this is where one started, a little teeny black circle with legs. And then one day I noticed the circle got elongated, and it was two frogs. Well, at the end of the summer or the middle of the fall, I said, this thing needs to be scrubbed out, and I'll just take it down. We're going to have a few cold days. And I said, okay, little froggies, I'm going to have to find a new home for you. And I raked to the bottom because it was filled with leaves, raked the bottom, and one frog flew out. The next frog flew out. I never saw them again. But I told them what I was going to do, that I was going to have to empty out the pond. And I'm sure in their way they received that information. Animals are not stupid. Think of dogs, think of your cats, how you got them trained. Think of rabbits, you can train rabbits. Who knew you could train a rabbit? You can train rabbits. So communicate with them what you need to do. Say, mommy's changing your food. You're going to get an extra water bowl. I'm changing your litter pan. And you know, bunnies and small dogs can be litter pan trained. So therefore, you can't say, well, I can't have a small dog because I don't want to walk it. Make sure the dog gets lots of exercise in the house, and give it a pan, give it a large pan. Communicate with them, communicate with everything, talk to your plants. I've always talked to my plants. And think of the amount of time and energy you're focusing on your plants, and decide, well, they're going to be here long after I'm gone out of the physical world, and take care of them. And say, well, Linda, if we're going to have an apocalypse and everything is going to get flooded and earthquaked, what's the difference? Because it leaves a lasting vibration. It leaves a lasting impression on the planet. So whatever winds up where you used to live, whether it's a glacier, or whether it's giant boulders, or whether it's a desert or part of the ocean, the memory of life and love is there. Memory of love and light and caring and nurturing is right there. And also it registers on the blueprint of the planet. We have a blueprint of the way everything should be, and the way the forests should be, with amounts of water that are appropriate, and the way the lakes should be clean, and the rivers and the oceans with no plastic, and wildlife with no plastic in their stomachs where they wind up starving to death. So everything you do counts. So if I'm on another planet and I live to be 5,000 Earth years old, I've seen tons of things, but not everything is happening at once, because there wouldn't be any point to life. And for the religions to say, it was about 250 years before the Catholic Church decided it was going to declare reincarnation heresy. Because everybody already knew that if you were coming back again, and you may not even know where you were coming back, why should you pay attention to what these people say? Why should you give your hard-earned money instead of to your family to a church or a synagogue or a mosque? So it was normal and natural. But the Catholic Church slaughtered millions upon millions, uncountable millions of anybody who didn't want to be Catholic, including the country of Ireland. I don't understand why they don't get it. 1172, Pope Alexander III gave the country of Ireland to King Henry and said, convert all that you can and kill the rest of the barbarians. They were not going to have a country that didn't agree with them. So kill them. Isn't that nice? Not the only country. That's what the Inquisitions were all about all across Europe. That's what they were about over here. People who couldn't be controlled or didn't want to be controlled. People knew that there was a Heavenly Father, Divine Mother. Remember, I always say one God, female, male, one God. People in the islands from ancient Lemuria. The Hawaiians say, by the way, our motherland rests beneath the Royal Ocean. They came from Lemuria. Atlantis was not an island around island. It was 3 separate continents. So I know it's on a lot of the channels that deal with history, but it's not true. It was not one island. It was not off Santorini. One was closer to northern Canada and Iceland and Greenland. One was more middle, what is now the USA, and the other was more Central and South America for Atlantis. So if I'm 5,000 years old and I'm looking down, I see everything happening as a scenario, but still not at once. I'm watching the trail of life and decisions and life and decisions and life and decisions and life and decisions and life all along and all across the neighborhood and all across the states, as far as I can see. And anybody, if you ever have the privilege of talking to someone from another planet, have them explain the same thing to you. I had that privilege. Other people have had that privilege. You may be someone who's had that privilege, especially if you know that this is not the only planet you've ever been on. Especially, I mean, since I was a child, I would say, I'm not from here. I don't belong here. I'm not the only person who says that. I'm comfortable in nature, not so much the South. I don't like alligators or poisonous snakes or snapping turtles, although we've got snapping turtles in Connecticut. I don't know if they have them in Canada. I'm wondering. No, you don't know either? Okay. But even small creatures and birds. I love birds. Have you ever said hello to a bird? Have you ever been talking to a bird and have it not facing you and have it hop around and face you and look right at you? Communicate. Say, I love you. I'm grateful for the fact that you're here. Stay as long as you like. Those of you who can recognize birds, which I can't, I mean, I know what a cardinal is and a robin and a bluebird, but I mean, I don't know if they're migrating or they're staying or whatever's happening. And say you're welcome to stay here as long as you'd like. Everything has a consciousness. Everything has a consciousness, whether it's on the level of your consciousness or not. It still has a thinking ability. We talked before about having trees having thinking ability, having trees who are compatible with each other, encourage each other's growth through the chemistry that they exude. It's like a fragrance that they exude. And trees that find themselves with seedlings growing that they're not happy with, and they like to drop some leaves on top of them and hopefully smother them out. How roots in compatible plants grow together and support each other, and how they have happy fungus, compatible to making them both thrive. If that's not communication, I don't know what is. So we're dealing with communication. We're dealing with lifetimes and reincarnation. And understand there's something really fascinating. The more you know, the more you know. And the more you know that you know, because you're reawakening concepts that you forgot about, that you forgot even existed because you haven't been confronted with them. Think about that. How many times have you watched a TV program, whether it's the History Channel or the Science Channel or Discovery or whatever, and said, well, I think I knew that. How do I know that? I just know that. And you don't know if you took it in school or if you read it in an article or you read a book on it. Talk about books, I have a book to show you. But you know that somehow you are aware of what is going on. And more so than you ever thought you did. So therefore, absorb all that you can. You'll remember what you need to remember for your life's mission, your life's goal, your life's path, to be able to help others. Nothing's that random. Nothing is random. I met somebody the other day who knew a cousin of mine. This is so bizarre. I had never known her before, but she and her husband were friends with my cousin, one of my cousins, who I hadn't spoken to in like 30 years. And they were great friends. And I told my other cousin, she was stunned out of her mind. So this circle from my blood family to the cousin he married, to people who live elsewhere, back to me, back to my cousin. What are the chances? Literally, what are the chances? This is a very small world in so many ways. And what is Jeff Bezos going up now for 11 minutes in his space module? He said you cannot ever look at the Earth the same way again once you see it from space. Every astronaut has said the same thing. It's different because you realize we are all on this globe. And what I do affects you, affects somebody else, you affect other people, other people affect other people. We're all interrelated. Get your 23andMe or whatever that ancestry program is, and you will see where your ancestors are from and how many people you know who may be from that area. Even if you move out of where your birthplace was, which there's a chance that a lot of people who were born there, who lived there, came off the same boat as your ancestors did. And then you go to another state or another country and you find out, oh, so-and-so is so-and-so. You're related, came from the same town. This is a globe, and what America does affects Canada, affects Central and South America, affects Europe. What the Russians and the Chinese do by invading our cyber, by giving cyber attacks, invading our national safety boards, our high content, secret content administrations, and also hospitals. I think it was 60 Minutes or somebody last night was talking about, or could be last night, night before. It's been on several programs about the damage that Russia and China have done financially to this country, because hospitals don't want to let the FBI take it over because they need the patient records now. I say put everything on paper, like we did in the old days, paper, pencil, pen. Then they can hack away whatever they want to do. You can say, screw you, we have paper. So that's another sign of communication problems. The idea is so that you can communicate to person A and person B, and person C can find out, and so person D, but somebody from the outside can hack into what you're saying and what you're doing. If you don't want it out there, don't put it on the internet. But people tend to be blabbermouths. A lot of people are blabbermouths, and they just can't wait to see themselves on the internet. Well, you'll see yourself on the internet a long time if you put something up there. And so is the rest of the world. It's not just your best friend or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your boss. It's the entire world can tap in.
5 minutes.
So you're thinking of that. Now we're talking about communication. This is the soft cover of a book called Red. I'm going to put it right up here. The hardcover has a full painting of a Raphael, with a woman with very pale skin and beautiful long red hair. The history of the redhead. Red, how difficult can that be to remember? Get the soft cover, but they don't have the, yes, they do. They do have some of the, I still can't find my hardcover. They have some of the artwork here and the history of the genetic differences that we have that cause us not to be able to eat certain foods, that cause us not to be able to deal with certain chemicals, certain medications, why it's so hard to medicate us. And it's really interesting. They have already found 3 types of mutations, not bad mutations. It's the red mutation, and it changes our body chemistry. They're working on a 4th set of genetics. So it's fascinating. Give a copy to your primary care physician, because if they haven't heard of it, like my primary care physician hadn't heard of it, it seems this information has been going around for years now. It seems that a doctor who doesn't know about it is not paying attention, because there are enough of us out there. My hair is blonde now because I'm all white, and so I don't look great in white hair. So I just did it last night. It's a little darker than it normally is, but I'm a natural redhead. And so I've had problems my whole life with this. And all of us, every time I meet another redhead, we have the same story to tell, the same situation, the same difficulties. So pick that up for yourself, because you're going to know a redhead, even if you're not red. And it's interesting with the bioscience in here and the history. And it's one of those things you have as a reference forever. Okay, I'm not seeing any calls online. Are you, Mr. Assistant Producer? No. So the number is on the bottom of the screen. And so therefore, call that number. If you have a personal question,
2
you
minutes.
ask a metaphysics first, and then your personal question. We have somebody on the line? Okay. So then you ask your personal question. And it'll be the same number every time you watch the show, which is every second Tuesday, every 4th Tuesday at 6 o'clock. So you can save it till next time if you don't have time to dial right now. I know a lot of you are driving home. Some of you are still at the office and you're watching me on Facebook. I'm glad to have you here. Tell everybody you know. It was difficult with certain transitions and certain health situations for me to be able to get a set time, but we have this now and you can count on it. Okay, and also we do reruns. So whenever you find it, we don't do reruns there, it's on forever. Yeah, I'm talking to my assistant producer who's over here. I want to talk next time about discrimination. And it's very primitive to dislike people who are not exactly like you. But in many cases, after the last shift, which scientists don't want to admit there was anything different, except we can see the different strata in the mountains. If you've ever been to the Rockies, like I have, I lived out in Denver for a year, you can see the different strata with the water marks and the earth marks and the ash marks from volcanoes. It's like people who think Trump won the election. It's there in front of you. So people who were without their modern conveniences, do you want to sit out in the rain or do you want to find a cave to live in? Well, you might have had a Harvard education, equally speaking, but if you don't have a safe place to hide, something is going to catch you. So the idea that people were all stupid and grunting is just insane.
1 minute.
But if you hear another language or see somebody who looks different, it could be your survival because they could want what you have. And you may not be willing to share because you don't know if there's just one or 1,000 over the other side of the mountain. So that's something to think about. But for the time being, we can all see each other and we all know who we are. And I want you to remember, meditate every day for 5 minutes and work on up. And if you just open up your hearts and minds to God's universal truth, you're going to know that God and the angels are always with you. Namaste. Stay with us.